Okay, welcome back.
Dobrodošli nazaj.
So, do you have your Bibles with you today?
A imate ob sebi svoja sveta pisma?
If you have, you can use them now.
Če jih imate, jih lahko zdaj uporabljate. Will I need to read more than here?
No, a little bit maybe, yes.
I need to read
Just for them to check, yes. Not everything that you will see on the screen is what I want to say. So,
Torej, povedal bom tudi več od tega, kar boste videli tukaj, ali pa ne vse, kar bo videno.
so how does the good news about the judgment is connected? How is it connected with the good news about salvation?
Kako je dobra novica o sodbi povezana z dobro novico o zveličanju?
So, the Reformation theologians like Martin Luther and after him people, they said what matters is justification.
Reformacijski teologi, kot so bili Martin Luther in tisti, ki so prišli za njim, so rekli, to, kar šteje, je opravičenje.
He said the article of justification is the article on which the church stands and falls.
Verovanje o opravičenju je tisto verovanje, na katerem cerkev stoji ali pada.
I agree with him,
Jaz se strinjam z njim.
but I have a different definition of justification than he has.
Teda imam drugačno razlago in definicijo opravičenja kot on.
Because for him, justification was this act of God upon people when they come to Jesus.
Ker za njega opravičenje bilo Božje dejanje na ljudeh, ko ljudje pridejo k Jezusu.
And as we have tried to say yesterday, actually there is justification. It's important for God's people.
In kot smo povedali včeraj, da je opravičenje in je pomembno za Božje ljudstvo,
But it's coming at a specific historical time, not spread across all the time.
ampak prihaja v konkretnem časovnem obdobju in ni nekako porazdeljeno skozi ves čas.
And it's linked actually with the arrival of the judgment.
In je povezano s prihodom sodbe.
The judgment that is described in Daniel 7,
Sodbe, ki je opisano v Danielu 7
Daniel 8.
in 8.
And so here we come to the book of Romans. And lo and behold, Paul here has a picture of the judgment and justification as, going together hand in hand.
In zdaj smo v pismu Rimljanom, kjer ima Pavel to sliko opravičenja in sodbe, ki gresta z roko v roki skupaj.
I probably know the motivation of, for example, Martin Luther for reading justification as a present activity for him.
Verjetno lahko prepoznamo motivacijo, zakaj je Martin Luther videl v opravičenju sedanjo aktivnost Boga.
Because the traditional theology of the time in 1500s was that you have to do your best to receive justification.
Ker tradicionalna teologija tistega obdobja je govorila o tem, da se človek mora potruditi za to, da bi prejel
And
opravičenje.
because he was a very sensitive soul,
In ker je Luther bil zelo občutljiva duša,
he wasn't sure if he's done his best
ni bil prepričan o tem, ali je se potrudil dovolj,
to deserve God's justification.
da bi si zaslužil Božje opravičenje.
And so when he comes to the text of Romans 1:17, for in the gospel the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith.
In ko pride do besedila v Rimljanom 1:17, kjer piše, v njem se razodeva namreč Božja pravičnost iz vere v vero,
So he immediately says, so righteousness is a gift here, and he reads this as a gift which we receive. I don't have to do anything, it's a gift.
in zato v tem besedilu prepozna pravičnost kot darilo, ki ga prejmemo, za katerega ne rabimo delati.
And so when you have faith, then you have the gift.
In ko imaš vero, dobiš dar.
And it might be true in principle,
V načelu je to res,
but he simply put everything into his time.
toda Luther vse umesti v svoj čas.
Partly because also he believed in immortal soul.
Delno seveda tudi zaradi tega, ker je veroval v neumrljivo dušo.
And so if you have an immortal soul, when you die, you immediately are back to life, so to speak.
In če imate neumrljivo dušo, ko umrete, se nemudoma vrnete na nek način nazaj v življenje.
And so you face the judgment. So you have to be justified before the judgment, he thought.
In takrat ste soočeni s sodbo, zato morate biti opravičeni pred njo. Tako je mislil.
So he separated judgment and justification.
Tako je ločil opravičenje in sodbo.
The future judgment and justification.
Prihodnjo sodbo in opravičenje.
Because justification for him was an act of judgment, but an ongoing judgment in heaven.
Za njega je bilo opravičenje dejanje sodbe, vendar trajne sodbe v nebesih.
So, and of course, the text which he used to substantiate his views was Romans.
In besedilo, ki ga je uporabil za to, da bi potrdil svoja stališča, je pismo Rimljanom.
So what happens if we start reading Romans carefully?
Kaj se zgodi, če pismo Rimljanom beremo skrbno?
So if you have your Bibles,
Če imate svoje
I'll
svetopisma,
just first introduce it briefly.
bom naredil en kratek uvod.
You have verses in chapter 1, verses 1 to 7, giving the initial introduction of Paul.
V prvem poglavju od 1. do 7. vrstice imate začetni uvod apostola Pavla.
And then from verse 8 to verse 15, you have the kind of explanation to the people, about, but basically it's an introduction.
Od vrste 8 do 15 imate potem pojasnilo njegovih namenov.
And then you have 16, 17,
Potem imate 16. in 17. vrstico.
the famous words, for I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jew first and also for the Greek, for in it the righteousness is revealed from faith to faith, etc.
Znamenite besede, ne sramujem se evangelija, saj vendar Božja moč v rešitelju vsakomur, ki veruje, najprej Judu in potem Grku, v njem se namreč razodeva Božja pravičnost iz vere v vero in tako naprej.
This is a summary.
To je povzetek.
And in a good Hebrew manner, he gives you first the conclusion.
In skladno z dobro hebrejsko prakso vam pisec najprej poda zaključek.
And to even get to understand what he means by these words, you have to realize it's a summary and the answer is not here in this text, but in what follows.
In da bi razumeli, kaj to besedilo pravi, morate vedeti, da je to povzetek in da odgovor ni v teh besedah, ampak da šele prihaja.
And so in what follows,
In
this verse
v tem, kar sledi za temi besedami,
comes in three different arguments from Paul.
prihajajo trije različni Pavlovi argumenti.
The first argument is 1:18 to 16.
Prvi argument je v 1:18 do 2:16.
The second starts in chapter 2:17 and it goes to 3:20.
Drugi se začne v 2:17 in gre do 3:20.
And the last 11 verses in chapter 3 is the final answer of Paul.
In zadnjih 10 vrstic v 3. poglavju je Pavlov zadnji, dokončni odgovor.
Very often what happens with our reading, we simply jump into Romans 3.
Tisto, kar se nam pogosto zgodi pri našem branju, je, da preprosto skočimo v Rimljanom 3.
And we don't enter to the book of Romans through the front gate.
In ne vstopimo v pismo Rimljanom skozi sprednja vrata.
And we read immediately something about justification, how those are justified who have faith. And we think he speaks about the present justification.
In nemudoma začnemo govoriti o pravičenju tistih, ki imajo vero, kot o sedanjem opravičenju.
But when you start following his arguments from the beginning, you will see that he uses the justification word in a specific future sense.
Toda, ko začnete slediti apostolu Pavlu, vidite, da uporablja besedo opravičenje na poseben način.
Okay, the first round of arguments.
Prvi cikl argumentov.
Immediately he begins to explain what he means in 16:17.
Pavel takoj začne pojasnjevati, kaj misli z besedami, ki so v 16. in 17. vrstici.
Immediately in verse 18 you have his perspective. What kind of story he wants to tell you? It's a story about the wrath of God.
V 18. vrsti vam takoj pove, kakšno vrsto zgodbe vam Pavel želi povedati. Božja jeza.
And he is basically arguing that the wrath of God against evil, injustice, sin, has been revealed from the beginning.
In trdi, da se Božja jeza proti grehu, proti krivičnosti razodeva od samega začetka.
And then he basically progresses in the description in chapter 1 and 2 and says, and one day he will fully reveal his anger against evil.
In potem gre korak za korakom naprej v tem prvem in drugem poglavju in pravi, nekega dne bo Bog popolnoma razodev svojo jezo.
You know, I showed you yesterday the biblical story, the Bible story, creation, fall, the promise, the coming of the Messiah, when the church, the day of the Lord and the new earth, the big story of the Bible.
Včeraj smo si ogledali veliko zgodbo Svetega pisma, od stvarjenja, padca v greh, obljubljenega Mesija, prihoda Mesija, obdobje cerkve, veliki dan Gospodov in novo stvarjenje.
You know, Paul is a big Bible story thinker.
Pavel je mislec, ki deluje znotraj te velike svetopisemske zgodbe.
How do we know?
Kako vemo?
Because he starts with the story of creation immediately with the story of Adam and Eve.
Ker-
In 1819.
Takoj v 18. in 19. vrstici začne na začetku, pri Adamu in Evi.
So, verse 19. So, the wrath of God is revealed against all ungodliness, unrighteousness. 19. Because what may be known about, of God is manifested in them, for God has shown it, revealed it to them. To whom?
18. vrstica pravi, Božja jeza se namreč razodeva iz nebes nad vsakršno brezbožnostjo in krivičnostjo ljudi. V 19. pa pravi, saj jim je to, kar je mogoče spoznati o Bogu očitno, sam Bog jim je namreč to razodev.
To whom God revealed himself?
Komu se je Bog razodev?
Adam and Eve.
Adamu in Evi.
You have immediately the next verse.
20. vrstica.
For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen.
Kajti od stvarjenja sveta naprej je mogoče to, kar je v njem nevidno, videti.
His eternal power and Godhead.
Njegova večna moč in božanskost.
Verse 21. Because although they knew God, they did not glorify him.
21. vrsta. Čeprav so namreč Boga spoznali, ga niso kot Boga slavili.
And who knew God that didn't glorify him?
Kdo je poznal Boga in ga ni slavil kot Boga?
And then it says, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened.
In potem pravi, marveč so postali v svojih mislih prazni in nespametno srce jim je otemnelo.
Who wanted to be, verse 22, professing to be wise, they became fools.
Kdo si je domišljal, da je moder, pa je bil neumen?
That's the story in Genesis 3.
To je zgodba 1. Mojzesove 3.
And then he starts with the creation, with how God revealed his goodness to Adam and Eve and how they wanted to be wise, right? They became fools. And then he enlarges quickly the story into the whole mankind.
In takoj po tem začetku, ki vključuje Adama in Evo, ki sta želela biti modra, pa sta bila neumna, Pavel razširi zgodbo na celotno človeštvo.
And so people chose their own way to go in a specific way away from God.
Ljudje so izbrali svojo pot, šli po njej, proč od
And
Boga.
Paul is going to use quickly 3 times in verse 24, 26, 28 the word he gave them up.
In v trikrat Pavel v 24., 26. in 28. vrstici pravi, da jih je Bog prepustil.
In Greek, he uses the word parabidomi, meaning he put away hands. If you want to go, I'm not going to force you. You go.
V grškem jeziku je beseda paradidomi, ki pomeni dvigniti roke od nekoga. Se pravi, če želiš iti, jaz te ne bom zadrževal.
And so what happens if God lets humanity go their own way?
In kaj se zgodi, če Bog prepusti človeštvu, da gre po svoji poti?
25, exchange the truth of God for the lie.
25. vrsta pravi, da so zamenjali Božjo resnico za laž.
You know, God gave them up to uncleanness, lusts of their hearts, etc.
Bog jih je prepustil sramotnim strastem, nečistosti.
26, God gave them up second time to wild passions.
26. stran, Bog jih je vrstica prepustil sramotnim strastem.
And where is the problem? 28.
In kje je težava? 28. vrsta.
They did not retain the knowledge, God in knowledge. God gave them over to a debased mind.
Ker se jim ni zdelo vredno, da bi živeli skladno s svojim spoznanjem Boga, jih je Bog prepustil njihovemu umu.
Okay. So, he builds up his argument starting in creation
Pavel gradi svoj argument, začne pri stvarjenju
and then says, and do you think that God is not going to do anything about this?
in potem pravi, a mislite, da Bog glede tega ne bo naredil ničesar?
He is. And he drops a clue, maybe there, but he drops a clue in verse 32 saying, actually, humanity knows that one day God will respond in righteous judgment against evil.
In v 32. vrstici da namig o tem, da človeštvo ve, se zaveda, da se bo Bog nekega dne sodbo odzval na zlo.
And then in chapter 2 he speaks about a man who judges other people.
Potem v drugem poglavju govori o človeku, ki sodi druge ljudi.
And if you look at verse 17, it says, indeed, you are called a Jew.
17. vrsta pravi, če pa se ti imenuješ Jud.
So he speaks about the Jews who knew about that God will judge the world.
Govori o Judih, ki so vedeli, da bo Bog sodil svet.
But actually he himself is under judgment and the Jew doesn't know it.
Ampak on sam je pod sodbo.
So you can see immediately in chapter 2 that he speaks about the judgment, that the end judgment that God will unveil one day against evil.
In tako v drugem poglavju vidimo nemudoma, da ima Pavel v mislih končno sodbo, ki jo bo Bog nekega dne razodel.
And so we come to the main summary. We can summarize the argument.
In potem lahko povzamemo argumente na ta način.
So there is an argument. He provides a big meta-narrative of humanity.
Bog, oziroma Pavel daje eno veliko meta-narativ, se pravi veliko pripoved človeštva od začetka zla
in humanity to the very end of evil.
Do samega konca zla.
And he calls it, the judgment day, the day of wrath.
Na sodni dan, na Gospodov dan, dan jeze.
And notice that Paul here, when he uses this language of judgment and justification, which he believes
In ko Pavel uporablja te besede, ta govor o sodbi in opravičenju,
it's not a language about God as savior from sin or provider of grace or renewer of our hearts.
To ni jezik, ki opisuje Boga kot zveličarja od greha, darovalca milosti ali prenavljavca srca.
The whole theme already in the first round of argument is about God as judge of the world.
Celotna tema v tem prvem sklopu argumentov je o vlogi Boga kot sodnika sveta.
And that basically he will go public with his judgment over evil and sin.
In o tem, kako bo Bog javno oznanil to svojo sodbo o grehu.
So those who in the sight of God are in the right according to the covenant provision will on the day publicly be declared by the Son.
Pavel v svojem evangeliju torej oznanja, da bo Bog po Jezusu Kristusu tiste, ki so v njegovih očeh pravični, na dan sodbe razglasil za take.
So especially from verses in your Bibles 12 onwards, you have this summary.
Še posebej od 12. vrstice naprej v vašem svetem pismu, drugo poglavje, imate ta povzetek.
And so, it's not on the next slide, so you can read that one.
Vsi, ki so grešili brez postave, se bodo tudi pogubili brez postave. In vsi, ki so grešili pod postavo, bodo sojeni po postavi. Pred Bogom namreč niso pravični tisti, ki postavo slišijo, ampak bodo upravičeni tisti, ki postavo izpolnjujejo. To se bo pokazalo na dan, ko bo Bog v skladu z mojim evangelijem po Kristusu Jezusu sodil temu, kar se skriva v ljudeh.
And as I told you, he ends in verse 16 the argument, and basically the point about how he ends the argument is in verse 12, 13 and then 16.
In zaključek tega njegovega argumenta, kot sem že preomenil, je v teh vrsticah tukaj, 12, 13 in 16.
So, he will judge, he will be a judge, he will judge evil on one hand.
Bog bo sodnik, Bog bo sodil bo zlo na eni strani.
But actually, there are also those who will be right in the sight of God on that day, and with those, he will justify them.
Ampak na drugi strani bodo tisti, ki bodo v Božjih očeh pravični in te bo Bog opravičil.
And he will, in verse 16, it says, indicates that the judgment will be based on what's in the hearts of people, secrets.
In 16. vrstica nakazuje na to, da bo sodba temeljila na tem, kar se skriva v ljudeh.
So, this is the first round of argument. Paul says, evil did arise, God responded with anger, and his anger was shown in letting them go, and one day he will respond in a big judgment.
Prvi cikl argumentov torej pravi, zlo se je pojavilo, Bog se je odzval na to zlo v svoji jezi in nekega dne bo v tej jezi sodil vsemu.
And I want you to notice immediately that when he uses the word justification, it's not a salvation word.
In takoj bi rad poudaril to, da ko apostol Pavel uporablja besedo za opravičenje, to ni beseda povezana z veličanjem,
It's a legal eschatology word.
ampak gre za pravni izraz, eskatološki izraz.
Judged and justified goes hand in the text.
Soditi in opravičiti spada skupaj v tem besedilu.
And I'm sorry for the Greek.
Se opravičujem za to grščino.
But basically, it means that it's a future tense. You know, the verb is in future. He will justify. He doesn't do it yet. He will justify.
Ampak to, kar želim poudariti, je, da gre za prihodni čas, se pravi, bodo opravičeni.
When?
Kdaj?
Verse 16, in that day.
Na tisti dan.
If you want to make this present, you have to twist lots of grammar, Greek grammar, and also you really have to make the judgment an ongoing thing from the beginning of the world.
Če želite to nekako narediti za sedanjo izkušnjo, sedanjo resničnost, morate manipulirati z grško slovnico in to z velikim delom te slovnice in sodbo narediti za nekaj, kar traja od samega začetka sveta.
So who can then be justified? Who can then pass this judgment in a positive verdict?
Kdo je torej lahko opravičen? Kdo lahko prestane to sodbo?
So in a second round from 17,
V drugem ciklu od 17. vrstice
he says, do you think you Jews who have Torah, God's word, that you have any benefit over the Gentiles who didn't have Torah?
Pavel sprašuje Jude, pravi, ali mislite vi, Judje, ki imate Toro, da imate kakšno prednost pred pogani, ki Tore nimajo?
Do you think you have any benefit or advancement against others just because you were circumcised?
Ali mislite, da ste kaj na boljšem zaradi tega, ker ste bili obrezani?
And he basically is creating this massive tension in the text.
In v besedilu ustvarja izjemno veliko napetost.
Because he says, you, in verse 23 for example, you who make your boast in the law, do you dishonor God?
V 23. vrsti recimo pravi, da se ponaša s postavo, pa žališ Boga s kršenjem postave.
For the name of the God is blasphemed among the Gentiles because of you.
Kajti zaradi vas se preklinja Božje ime med pogani.
So how will God sort this out? And then in chapter 3,
Kako bo Bog to razrešil? Potem v 3. poglavju
he highlights or he makes the tension even bigger.
še bolj poveča to napetost.
Because if the Jews are unrighteous, the Gentiles are unrighteous,
Ker če so
how can God be righteous in his judgment?
Judje krivični, če so pogani krivični, kako je lahko Bog pravičen v svoji sodbi?
Can he even justify?
Ali lahko opraviči?
Or verse 6 says, for then how will God judge the world?
6. vrstica v 3. poglavju pravi, kako naj bi sicer Bog sodil svet?
So, what is the basis for the judgment?
Kaj je torej temelj za sodbo?
And you have the section from 9 to 18, quoting some Old Testament scriptures saying there is no one righteous.
In potem
Not one.
od 9. do 18. vrstice imamo odlomek s citati iz Stare zaveze, ki pravijo, da nihče ni pravičen.
It says there is none, verse 12, who does good, not one.
12. vrsta pravi, ni ga, ki bi delal dobro, ni ga niti enega.
He says there is no fear of God before their eyes, before people's eyes.
Pravi, da ni strahu Božjega pred njihovimi očmi.
So how could this happen? If I'm a Jew and I have a Torah,
Kako je to možno, če sem torej jaz Jud in imam Toro,
but I have a problem with my heart of selfishness and evil,
a imam težavo v svojem srcu s sebičnostjo in zlo?
how could God do it? Is it through careful obedience to the Torah?
Kako me lahko Bog opraviči? Ali skozi skrbno poslušnost Tori?
Verse 20.
20. vrstica.
Therefore, by the deeds of the law, no flesh will be justified in his sight.
Kajti noben človek se ne bo opravičil pred njim za deli postave.
So I'll come back to verse 20 in a second.
Malo pozneje bom šel nazaj do 20. vrste.
Let's just have a look at the summary. In the second round of arguments, in Romans 2:17 to 3:20, Paul provides a second subset of arguments. He goes deeper.
Torej v drugem ciklu argumentov, ki sega od 2.17 do 3.20, Pavel predstavlja podskupino argumentov, ki grejo globlje.
And he discusses the privileged position of Israel in God's plan.
In razpravlja o privilegiranem položaju Izraela v Božjem načrtu.
And whether they have any special status on the day of the Lord because of their calling.
In o tem, ali bodo imeli kakšen poseben položaj na Gospodov dan zaradi tega, ker so bili poklicani.
And shockingly, Paul in this section is charging Israel for being just as unresponsive. They are transgressors of the Torah, uncircumcised in their hearts, practicing wickedness, falling short of the glory as the Gentiles.
In kar je osupljivo, Pavel Jude obtožuje, da so neodzivni na Božji klic, prestopniki Tore, neobrezani v svojem srcu, krivičniki in brez Božje slave, prav kakor pogani.
And this raises the big question, on what basis then can God judge?
In to spodbuja to veliko vprašanje, na temelju česa lahko potem Bog sodi.
So at the background of Paul thinking actually is, this argument is a story about God, what kind of God judges.
V ozadju Pavlovega razmišljanja, ko govori o teh temah, je vprašanje, kakšen je Bog, ki sodi.
So how can he approve some and reject others?
Kako lahko odobrava nekatere, zavrača druge?
How can he justify some and condemn others?
Kako lahko upravičuje ene in obsoja druge?
He will claim in contrast that God's righteousness, faithfulness and truthfulness will actually shine even more. But how?
Pavel trdi, da bodo Božja pravičnost, zvestoba in resničnost še jasneje zasijale, ampak kako?
And hear it in his last round of arguments.
In to nam bo potem razkril v zadnjem ciklu argumentov.
So he's slowly going to the evil that came to the world and God's response in the final day, saying the hearers, not the hearers, but the doers of the law will get justification.
Pavel začne pri pojavitvi zla in potem prehaja v to, da govori o tem, da bodo tisti, ki delajo po postavi, prejeli opravičenje.
But then, here in verse 20,
Ampak potem v 20. vrstici,
especially verse 20, he says, therefore by the deeds of the law it will not work.
kajti z deli postave se ne bo opravičil noben človek.
So what is the difference between the doer of the law and doing the deeds of the law?
Kakšna je torej razlika med tistimi, ki dela po postavi in deli postave?
Who is the one who does the law and who is the one who does the deeds of the law?
Kdo je tisti, ki dela po postavi in kdo tisti, ki dela postave?
The difference is life and death, justification, condemnation.
Razlika je razlika med življenjem in smrtjo, opravičenjem in pogubo.
The doer of the law is basically the one who does what the law says.
Tisti, ki dela po postavi, je oseba, ki dela to, kar postava
And
pravi.
you know what the law says?
Veste, kaj postava pravi?
I think I have the text maybe later, maybe not, Deuteronomy 3. I have it in the next presentation, okay?
V naslednjem predavanju imam eno besedilo, ki o tem tudi govori.
Oftentimes we forget, we end up reading Exodus 20 as being the center of the law and the Ten Commandments, that this is what he means, but he means much more.
Pogosto je naše razmišljanje omejeno na to, da ima Pavel v mislih ko gre za postavo 2. Mojzesovo 20, 10 zapovedi in da je to središče vsega, a misli veliko več.
When God revealed His law, there was 10 commandments, but there was much more. And the apex, the kind of the top of the commandment is revealed in Deuteronomy 30.
In Bog je seveda razodel 10 zapovedi, ki so bile del njegove postave, vrhunec vsega pa pride v 5. Mojzesovi knjigi 30. poglavju,
And first 10 verses.
v prvih 10 vrstah.
This is where the commandment ends. And you know what you have there?
In veste, kaj je zapisano tam?
It says, one day you will become evil as hell.
Nekega dne boste postali hudobni kot pekel.
And I will let you go to the farthest land, to the deepest corner, the darkest corner, and you will be there.
In dovolil bom, da boste šli do najgloblje točke, najbolj oddaljene točke tega sveta.
It's going to happen to you.
To se vam bo zgodilo.
And what do you do then?
In kaj boste naredili potem?
It says one thing. In Hebrew it says, do in that situation, do only one thing. Do shuv.
In v hebrejščini je zapisano, da samo eno stvar lahko naredijo, in sicer naredite šuv,
Which is, turn to me.
kar pomeni obrnite se k meni.
Don't try to keep. Don't try to cover up by behaving nicely. Just turn to me.
Ne poskušajte prikrivati svojega stanja s tem, da se lepo vedete, ampak se obrnite k meni.
Just cry out to me, say, we are so unworthy. Would you, Lord, turn to us?
Kličite k meni z besedami, Gospod, mi smo tako nevredni, ozri se na nas.
We have at least 3 or 4 amazing prayers of turning to God, which give you example of what it looks like.
Imamo vsaj 3-4 izjemne molitve, ki nam opisujejo to, kako to obračanje k Bogu izgleda.
When Israel was just before the exile,
Ko se Izrael nahajal na točki tik pred odhodom v sužnost,
but some already were in Babylonian exile,
nekateri pa so že bili v Babilonu,
you have in Ezekiel 18 and 20
imate v Ezekielu 18 in 20
one example of God saying, just turn to me.
primer tega, ko Bog pravi, obrnite se k meni.
Towards the end of the exile, you have the prayer of Daniel.
Proti koncu tega obdobja imate Danielovo molitev.
In Daniel 9,
V Danielu 9.
it's an amazing prayer.
Osupljiva molitev.
And then you have in Nehemiah,
In potem v Nehemiju,
in chapter 9, a prayer.
v 9. poglavju molitev.
You have in the book of Ezra, in chapter 9,
V Ezrovi knjigi, 9. poglavju.
an amazing prayer of turning to God.
Osupljiva molitev, obračanja k Bogu.
And you open the Psalms and you see David
In ko odprete psalme, vidite Davida,
after he is sinking deep in evil.
ko se potopi globoko v zlo.
He just goes, here his clothes apart, says, Lord, create in me a new heart. I don't deserve anything, but I'm turning to you.
Raztrga svoje oblačila in pravi, Bog ustvari v meni čisto srce, nič si ne zaslužim, a obračam se k tebi.
The doer of the law is the one who does what the Torah, what the law says, turns to God.
Tisti, ki dela po postavi, dela to, kar pravi Tora ali postava, obrača se k Bogu.
Then the one who keeps the law,
Tisti, ki drži postavo,
the one who does the deeds of the law, I should say,
tisti, ki, tako bi moral reči, dela postave,
I think it's here in verse 20,
kot je zapisano v 20. vrstici,
it says, the one who tries to do it this way won't be justified.
ta, ki poskuša na ta način, ne bo opravičen.
And he is referring here to the Jewish Pharisaic way of dealing with the law.
In tukaj govori o judovskem, farizejskem načinu ravnanja s postavo.
So you are evil as hell. We
Ste,
are evil as hell.
ste hudobni, pokvarjeni kot pekel, mi smo to.
And what do we do?
In kaj delamo?
Sin is so clever, Paul says in chapter 7 in Romans, that it's going to whisper to your ear saying, do the law to change me. Do the law.
Pavel v Rimljanom 7 pravi, da je greh tako premeten, da nam šepeta v uho, delaj postavo in me boš spremenil.
And we try to keep the commandments as a letter
In potem poskušamo izpolnjevati zapovedi kot črko
from our own forcing ourselves, from our own power.
iz naše lastne moči.
And if you if you are a person with strong will, you can do it.
In če ste oseba z močno voljo, vam lahko uspe.
But Paul says it doesn't change your thinking about yourself or God.
Toda Pavel pravi, to ne spremeni vašega razmišljanja o vas samih, niti o Bogu.
And so Paul is very, very polemical in this second round of arguments, especially with Jews who are proud that they have Torah.
Zato je Pavel zelo polemičen v tem drugem ciklu argumentov, še posebej z Judi, ki so ponosni, da imajo Toro.
Because they misused the Torah by doing the deeds, the letter of the Torah.
Ker so Toro zlorabljali na ta način, da so delali dela postave.
They were not doing shuv to God so that God could change their hearts.
Niso delali šuv proti Bogu, niso se obračali k Bogu.
In Deuteronomy 30,
V 5. Mojzisovi 30
the text says, if you turn to God, God is going to turn to you and He will create you a new heart.
besedilo pravi, če se obrnete k Bogu, se bo Bog obrnil k vam in ustvaril v vas novo srce.
And He will do it because of His chesed, says the Hebrew, which is grace, because of His...
In to bo naredil zaradi svoje hesed, milosti.
You think the Old Testament goes against the New Testament? It doesn't.
Mislite, da stara zaveza nasprotuje novi? Ne.
And Deuteronomy 30 is the primary text for Paul's thinking here in Romans.
In 5. Mojzesova 30. poglavje je tisto primarno besedilo, na katerem Pavel gradi svoje razmišljanje v Rimljanom.
Alright, so he finishes the argument in verse 20 as he says, by the deeds of the law, no flesh will be justified in his sight.
V 20. vrsti zaključuje torej ta argument, kajti noben človek se ne bo opravičil pred njim z deli postave.
And again, you have the Greek verb, which is in future tense.
Spet imate grški glagol, ki je v prihodnjem času,
Because he thinks in terms of justification will come when the judgment will come at the
zato
end.
ker Pavel razmišlja o tem, opravičenje pride, ko pride sodba na koncu.
And the way you not get it is if you try to do it the classical Pharisaic Jewish way.
In ker tega ne razumete, poskušate to doseči na klasičen judovski farizejski način.
So, on what basis then, if everybody is guilty in front of God, on what basis God will do it?
Če so vsi krivi pred Bogom, na temelju česa bo Bog nekoga opravičil.
And so we come to the third round of argument.
In tako pridemo do tretjega cikla argumentov.
Yeah. In the third round of argument, maybe we should just briefly read what he says.
V tretjem ciklu pravi,
So he says this, but now you can read it from 21 to 30.
od 21. do 30. vrstice. Zdaj pa se je brez postave pokazala Božja pravičnost, o kateri pričujejo postava in preroki. Božja pravičnost se daje po veri v Jezusa Kristusa in sicer vsem, ki verujejo. Ni namreč nobene razlike, saj so vsi grešili in so brez Božje slave. Opravičeni pa so zastonj po njegovi milosti prek odkupitve v Kristusu Jezusu. Njega je Bog javno določil, da bi bil svojo krvjo orodje sprave, h kateri prideš po veri. S tem je hotel pokazati svojo pravičnost, tako je v svoji potrpežljivosti odpustil prej storjene grehe. Hotel je pokazati svojo pravičnost v sedanjem času, da je namreč sam pravičen in da opravičuje tistega, ki veruje v Jezusa. Kje je torej razlog za ponašanje? Ni ga. Po kakšni postavi? Po delih? Ne, temveč po postavi vere. Menimo namreč, da človek doseže opravičenje po veri, brez del postave. Je morda Bog samo Bog Judov? Ali ni tudi Bog poganov? Gotovo, tudi Bog poganov. Saj je en sam Bog, ki bo obrezane opravičil iz vere, neobrezane pa po veri. Mar potem takem z vero razveljavljamo postavo? Nikakor, ampak postavo uveljavljamo.
Okay, he uses here basically unpacks the argument in full
Tukaj razloži ta argument v celoti, do konca,
and says on what basis it happens.
in sprašuje, na temelju česa se bo zgodilo pravičenje.
What basis, you told me?
Na temelju česa?
One word. On the basis of faith.
Na temelju vere.
trust. The Greek word pistis
Grška beseda pistis
means faith, trust, faithfulness.
Pomeni vera, zaupanje, zvestoba.
It's not this intellectual faith, but it's actually much deeper faith.
Torej ne intelektualna vera, ampak veliko globlja vera.
And you have the summary in verse 30.
In v 30. vrsti imamo povzetek.
So he basically says this: since there is one God who
Pravi-
will justify the circumcised by faith and the uncircumcised through faith.
Da je en sam Bog, ki bo obrezane opravičil iz vere, neobrezane pa po veri.
So a Jew by faith and a Gentile uncircumcised by faith.
Jud po veri in neobrezani, torej pogan po veri.
And he will immediately in chapter 4 give you an example of this faith.
In v 4. poglavju vam potem nemudoma ponudi primer tega.
Abraham's story.
Abrahamova zgodba.
Now, what confuses us very often
Kar nas pogosto zmede,
is that we read, for example, in verse 24, that being justified freely by his grace.
je to, da ko beremo, da smo upravičeni zastonj po njegovi milosti,
Or 28, therefore we conclude that a man is justified by faith.
ali 28. menimo namreč, da človek doseže upravičenje po veri.
And what you have to know about this, let's see if I have a slide, I do have a slide. What you have to know about this, that this is how he uses the word justification in Romans 4.
Tako apostol Pavel uporablja besedo upravičenje v pismu Rimljanom.
End of the first round of the arguments, future tense.
Na-
Second round, future tense.
Na koncu prvega in drugega cikla v prihodnjem času,
Future tense, at the end, he concludes the argument again, they will be, not conclude future tense.
na koncu spet v 30. vrstici prihodnji čas.
But then he uses 3 times as part of his explaining the process of justification.
Potem pa 3-krat uporablja to besedo kot pojasnilo za razlago procesa upravičenja.
Or the principle on which justification works.
Ali pa načelo, na podlagi katerega upravičenje deluje.
He uses 2 participles and 1 infinitive.
Uporablja 2 deležnika in en nedoločnik.
And in Greek grammar, participles and infinitives are without time.
In v grški slovnici so deležniki nedoločniki brez časa.
They simply define a process, how things work, not when it happens.
Preprosto definirajo proces, kako nekaj teče, ne pa odgovarjajo na vprašanje, kdaj se nekaj zgodi.
You have to take the timing contextually in the passage from the main verb.
Časovnico morate razbrati v tem odlomku na podlagi glavnega glagola.
And that's in verse 30.
In ta je v 30. vrsti.
So there is nothing in the third round of argument that goes against the first or second.
Torej nič v tem tretjem ciklu argumentov ne nasprotuje prvemu in drugemu.
And except in verse 24, 26, 28, he simply explains the operation of justification. This way justification happens.
V 24., 26. in 28. vrsti preprosto razlaga, kako opravičenje poteka, kako deluje.
Being justified freely through faith.
Torej, smo opravičeni zastonj po veri.
Or 28, a man is justified by faith apart from the deeds of the law.
Človek je opravičen po veri brez del postave.
So I hope you get the argument that Paul constantly thinks about justification judgment happening at the end, except in the third round he unveils how it will work.
Upam, da vidimo tukaj argument, kako Pavel neprestano opravičenje povezuje sodbo, torej s prihodnostjo. Razen v tem odlomku, torej, kjer govori o tem, kako opravičenje deluje.
For him it's in future,
Za njega je opravičenje stvar prihodnosti,
from his time point of view.
gledano iz njegove točke.
Just by the way, as a kind of footnote,
Kot opomba,
Paul is very systematic in using those terms with the law, doer of the law and doing the deeds of the law.
Pavel je zelo sistematičen, ko uporablja te izraze, delati po postavi ali delati dela postave.
And if you go to Galatians or elsewhere, you will see that he uses these 2 phrases, and now you know what they mean.
In če greste v pismo Galačanom, boste videli, da uporablja iste fraze in potem tudi zdaj veste, kaj misli s katero teh
And
fraz.
oftentimes when he uses the phrase doing the deeds of the law, he is very confrontational with the classical, contemporary Jewish way of dealing with the Torah.
In ko uporablja izraz delati dela postave, je zelo močno nasprotuje klasičnemu judovskemu pristopu k Tori.
So Paul is not against the law, but he is against a specific way of approaching the law by doing the deeds of the law. That's wrong.
Pavel ni proti postavi, ampak je proti določenemu načinu uporabe postave, torej delati dela postave.
The church should be the church should be doing the law that is turning to God.
Cerkev bi morala delati po postavi, torej obračati se k Bogu.
This is the right way of doing this.
To je pravi način dela.
Okay. We saw this. I don't have to necessarily. Anyway, assurance of salvation. I will speak more about this in my last presentation.
Gotovo zveličanje, nekaj več bom o tem govoril v svojem zadnjem predavanju.
When we speak about justification being a future act of God on His day of judgment,
Ko govorimo o pravičenju kot o prihodnem Božjem dejanju na dan sodbe,
does it take away anything from the assurance of salvation that Luther so badly wanted?
ali nam to odzema gotovo zveličanja, ki si jo je Luther tako močno želel?
It does not.
Ne.
Because Paul uses different terms, different language for assurance of salvation.
Ker Pavel uporablja različne nazive oziroma drugačen naziv za gotovo zveličanje.
In chapter 5 he begins to use, in chapter 6, terms like reconciliation
V 5. in 6. poglavju govori o spravi
and adoption.
in o posvojitvi.
When we turn to God
Ko se obrnemo k Bogu
through His Messiah and
po
give Him
njegovem
our trust,
Mesiju in mu pokažemo zaupanje,
then God takes us and we become part of His people.
nas Bog sprejme in postanemo del njegovega ljudstva.
He adopts us.
On nas posvoji.
And by the way, baptism in chapter 6
In krst v 6. poglavju
is the public act of the marriage between us and God.
je javno dejanje poroke med nami in med Bogom.
So it's a very strong language.
Gre za zelo močan jezik.
It's a language of covenant. Now you are part of my covenant. And
Zdaj ste del moje zaveze, pravi Bog.
and because you are part of my covenant, you know what's coming on the day of judgment.
In veste, kaj prihaja na dan sodbe.
So the assurance is not taken away whatsoever.
Torej, ni nam odvzeta gotovost.
Justification is a technical, legal act, public act of God on His day upon His people.
Opravičenje je Božje dejanje, pravno dejanje, legalno dejanje na dan
And
sodbe.
when we read how and when this will happen,
In ko beremo o tem, kdaj in kako se bo to zgodilo,
we can have full assurance today if we have trust in our hearts towards God.
lahko imamo popolno gotovost v svojem srcu, če zaupamo Bogu.
Then we know that today we are His children, sons and daughters, and on His day we will be His children.
Potem vemo, da smo danes njegovi otroci, njegove hčere, njegovi sinovi in bomo na dan sodbe ravno tako.
And you can go to your grave tomorrow
Lahko jutri odidete v svoj grob
with trust, confidence and peace.
v zaupanje in gotovostjo van.
How come Paul in 2 Timothy 4
Kako Pavel v drugem pismu Timoteju 4
says, I have finished the race, I fought a good fight.
pravi, dokončal sem tek,
Then he says,
izbojeval sem dober boj,
I kept the faith,
ohranil sem vero,
pistis.
pistis.
And I know that the crown of glory is prepared for me. Not only for me, but for all who do it like
In
I
vem,
do.
da je zame pripravljen venec slave, ne samo zame, ampak za vse, ki delajo tako.
Do you have pistis in your heart?
Ali imate pistis v svojem srcu?
All the external indicators, your baptism, walking with God, your prayer life, your communion with God, our worship together on Sabbath days and beyond, all these are signs of our pistis.
Vsi zunanji dejavniki, naš krst, naše sodelovanje pri bogoslužju, naše posvečevanje sobote, vse te stvari so znamenja tega zaupanja, te vere,
You
pistis.
know, God gave you a wedding ring to your finger that you are His.
Bog je na vaš prst nataknil poročni prstan, ki pravi, da ste njegovi.
Why do we constantly distrust ourselves and want to do the deeds just to have extra peace of mind?
Zakaj neprestano ne zaupamo temu in ves čas poskušamo delati dela postave?
We should have peace and full assurance, just as Paul had.
Morali bi imeti mir in popolno gotovost, kot je imel apostol Pavel.
And the judgment, you know, the message about judgment only enhances this.
In naše sporočilo o sodbi to samo še bogati, razširi.
The logic is this: if you have peace today, you're going to get justification tomorrow.
Logika je ta, če imaš danes to zaupanje, boš jutri dobil opravičenje.
And that's basically the argument of Paul.
In to je Pavlov argument.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hvala za pozornost.